Warning, the warning has been removed from this very educational video. I better start off with explaining a bit about this video before we get into the meat of the sandwich, and there's some very strange meat in this sandwich, I can tell you. There's a famous redback spider that ended up being called Mrs. John Cena. Mrs. John Cena had the ability to take out anything and everything it was put up against without saying the K word. Mrs. John Cena was released out to a bush setting where there was a rustic car in the bush, which would have provided the perfect home for Mrs. John Cena and her clutch of redback spider egg sacs, which can contain hundreds upon hundreds of baby redback spiders, which would have seen the car wreck as the perfect new home. I revisit the rustic car wreck 1 year after releasing Mrs. John Cena. We've already seen that video, then I come back 1 week after that time. I hope this makes sense, but then I come back a couple more times during the Australian winter up until mid-August. Now, to my astonishment, this car wreck had been heavily manipulated in the time when I wasn't there during the Australian winter, and this will expose a grander story as we watch the video. As I alluded to in the first car wreck revisit, you need to be a little bit careful venturing out into the Australian bush, because sometimes the isolation of the area can be the perfect environment for the perfect crime. Anyway, I'll put titles up so you know what time frame we're looking at during the video. Let's do it. I came back to the car wreck 1 week after, well, basically the year inspection, if that makes any sense, and I was curious whether I would see any more spider activity, and these are the bits that I rolled over before that you would have seen in the video. I can't really see that much web. Mind you, there is a little bit of fresh web there. Okay, that would be from a small spider, but the bit that I've just noticed, and it's a bit that I really did miss out in the previous visit, and I think it's important to look at, and I'm a bit wary here because I haven't got my snake stick with me, is this was the engine here. There were 3 egg sacs up there. Remember, I took one away and there's 2 left behind, but down on the ground, I can see more redback spider egg sacs. Looking right in the middle of frame, I'll get the stick in and I'll count them up for you. There's one there that I'm just poking, there's another one there, and there is another one there. All redback spider egg sacs. You're gonna have to trust me on that. That's exactly what they are. So in seeing that there, plus the other egg sacs here, that would be all from one large female redback spider. I'm saying it's going to be Mrs. John Cena. I reckon Mrs. John Cena. Who knows, maybe under there still. But this is definitely the area where, over the last summer, a large female has decided to lay 6 redback spider egg sacs. Over the last week, I have been very curious to try and work out what sort of car this is, and maybe the shape of the bumper here is going to be a clue. It's got a bit of a boof there in the middle. I think that's the shape of it, which would have wrapped around the front of the car. You know, it's going to need a car expert to know about this. It's really heavy. It's like the good old-fashioned days of cars. Like you lift this up and it's got a lot of weight in it. That's maybe, might give you a bit of a clue, but yeah. I know someone will pick off what sort of car it is by seeing the engine, seeing the bits and bobs, and I think the front bumper bar is a major clue. Apart from the bumper, maybe that panel there, if I get the area and we see where the headlight keys into it, that might be another major clue. I haven't got gloves on, so I'm being very careful. Okay. So looking along there, you can see the horizon line on that panel. That might be a clue for you. Okay, and there's the front there where the headlight keys in to that front panel. Hope that helps you car buffs in IDing this car. The one thing I do notice around here, I noticed that the last time I was here, last week, is there are ants getting about everywhere. Yes, I think Mrs. Redback would have a very, very hard time up against the ants in this environment here. So it was about this time, I think it was May 2018, I thought, well, maybe some other people would like to come down and see the car wreck and see Mrs. John Cena Redback Spider. And that set me on a bit of an adventure to, well, put pictures and place marks into Google Maps or Google Earth and try to understand one from the other. And what I found out was, I feel that Google Maps is very much bent towards business. Now, maybe you know more than me, but what I was finding was it kept wanting to attach my photograph to a local business, not to where the car wreck was. And I had to basically manually say, well, the car wreck is here. I don't want my photo attached to some other business. What made it even more confusing for me was the Apple geotag, because the photograph was taken on an iPhone, was in a totally wrong spot. It wasn't at the spot where the car wreck is down in the bush. And I'll admit I'm not an expert at this. I used to play with Google Earth way back when it was first up and running. I think a lot of people did that because it was a novelty thing. But man, I was struggling to get this to basically line up and make things work and make things point to the right spot. But in the end, I got it working on Google Maps via My Maps, and I think I sent that link out via Google+, so maybe some people saw that. But I thought to myself, well, who really is going to see that through that, and who's going to discover it? So then I thought, well, I'll go on to Google Earth, and then the revelation is there's actually Google Earth and Google Earth Pro. It's only the Pro version that seems to be able to do anything. And then again, I had to come in and manually put things in, but then when I got my pictures into Google Earth Pro, the pictures were upside down. Okay, so again, I'm not an expert at this. I dare say there are some of my viewers who play with this all the time. I don't know how many hours or days or weeks I'm going to invest into putting in some photographs into Google Earth, but I can tell you this, I'm not going to spend too long trying to work it out if it keeps playing up with me. And in trying to work things out, it had me reading some wiki pages about a bit of mapping history and how Google had acquired some companies and they like to put certain features to bed. Very interesting reading. And also what I didn't like was when I was trying to resolve problems, when I was doing a Google search about a problem, there were results coming back from years ago in relation to Google Earth. I mean, all that old information doesn't relate to what goes on today. So I feel Google need to filter out a lot of the old information, which really does hamper you trying to understand how something works. Well, I've come down to look at the car wreck at the end of our winter. I'm shooting this in the first week of August of 2018. And sadly, it looks like there's been some vandal come down here. They've moved a whole bunch of stuff around. That's the hood of the car, or the bonnet as we say. That used to be over there. Okay. This looks like it's only been done fairly recently. Oh man, I don't like this. I can see the back of the car a little bit clearer now. Yeah, I think that's the rear bumper there, which I don't remember seeing that before at all. The other bumper bar, which was used to be laying in there, is now over here. Oh man, I wanted this side to be left sort of the same. This here is the little tree that was, to me, it was fairly new and growing up, and now it's laying over. Oh, I sort of feel like putting this back to where it was. Oh man, it's so different now. Maybe this is the penalty for me pinpointing where this spot was on the My Maps thing, as in Google Maps thing, and I thought I was doing the smart thing. Maybe that was the worst thing I could have done. And what I'm going to do is take a look up at the engine block there and just have a poke in there. I can still see the Redback's egg sacs there that were here months back when I last looked down here. The egg sacs are still on the ground there. Yeah, they're pretty robust little things. I am very curious about this. A lot of people spoke about this area here, which some people saying it was the spider wasp nest. I'm just going to pull this out and see what is actually in that. I've got some illumination coming on now. In a strange way, I actually think that's ant. I may have said back when I was poking at this, yeah, it's ant. Well, ants are our friends, aren't they? And ants are going to keep the redbacks at bay, I certainly know that. I'll tell you what I can see here. It is activity from juvenile redbacks. I'm not sure whether you'll see it, but there is web. You can see it glistening there, hopefully on screen, all through here. They're going to be scampering for their lives while I'm doing this. Yeah, so there is actually signs of redbacks here, but I'd say by the web, it's only little ones. There's actually a web strung up here as well, which I don't think that's redback. I think that's one of those little leaf spiders, and it's living in that thing there, that leaf there, I think. We'll live and let live there. Just taking a look up at the bell housing here, the flywheel of the motor here. I think that's a manual clutch because that's the arm that basically moves the clutch. I hope I'm correct there. I'm not a car expert. There is lots of redback spider web there. Mind you, there was lots of redback spider web there the first time I came down after the year-long visit, in a sense. And if I traverse along here, there's actually stacks and stacks of redback spider web. Maybe you'll see spiders scampering for their lives. There's heaps of very, very fine redback spider web. In fact, there might be a sleeping redback spider in winter wonderland mode, sort of, hiding out in there somewhere. I'm not going to poke my hand up there to find out. Maybe the camera sees stuff. In fact, I think I can see some sort of egg sac or something there. What's that up there? Yeah, that's a redback spider egg sac there, okay? Right in the middle of the screen. Probably totally out of focus, but definitely redback spider lair area right there. So that there will be the relatives of Mrs. John Cena. And I'm actually contemplating coming down here at night and taking a look over this car wreck, but I can't guarantee it's going to happen, but that's what I'm contemplating. Well, as the sun's going down, this is how the car wreck lays out in the bush. Maybe I've learned my lesson about putting something up in public and identifying where it is. I am cheesed off that all this area has been disturbed. I mean, I've walked past this car wreck many, many years, and it always looked exactly the same. And now all of a sudden, once I make some sort of profile out of this thing, people come along and they want to wreck it. Well, I suppose I can't really cry because, well, it already is a wrecked car, but I would have really liked if this was left alone and not turned upside down as I'm seeing right now. Knowing my luck, and I haven't had that much good luck, especially with YouTube of late, next time I come down here to look at the car wreck, someone's going to decide, oh, let's take it out of the bush and totally clean it up. Yeah, that'd be my luck. Well, here I am again, going back down to the car wreck. It's the 16th of August, 2018. We are right on the brink of the spider season kicking off. And I'm coming back down here because I think I've worked out why the car wreck was all pulled apart. And, I thought it was vandalized, but, well, I'll tell you what happened when I get closer to the car wreck. I've got to be a little bit quick. I'm about to lose the sun. Okay, very familiar territory for me now. There is the car wreck. I have brought gloves with me because I'd like to reset this in the way that it was before it all got turned over. And let me tell you a little bit of a story, and I might flash up things on screen here as we go. And this is a true story. There was a young girl who was murdered and her body was dumped in the bush not far from here. And this happened over the Australian winter. It was a Chinese national, a girl in her 20s, and there was a big search in the part of town where I live, and they sort of knew where the body was, the area, because there was basically tracking via a phone of the person who dumped the body. Maybe that's all I'll say about that case, but I believe the reason why the car wreck here was all turned over was because the police would have come down here looking for a dead body. I have got with me two tuning forks. One is A and the other one is E. I think the longer one is E. And these actually do lure out spiders, as that YouTuber had suggested to me. And I'm just going to quickly try and get a spider to appear before I reset the car wreck to as I'd like to see it. Just before I put my knee down anywhere here, I'm looking for ants because some of the ants around here aren't very nice. Just looking at the engine here, hopefully you can see a spider web which is flashing across camera there. Maybe you'll see things that I can't see because, well, I can't see much when I'm looking at my camera like this. The egg sac is still up there. I'm actually wondering whether that has been laid up during the winter time. And I say that because what I found out was the spider that was up inside Mrs. Cow actually laid an egg sac a couple of weeks after I fed it that beetle. A bit of trivia for you. I never knew they laid egg sacs in the middle of winter, but yes, they can. So what I'll do is I'll strike the tuning fork over here on the wheel and I'll take it over to where the spiders are and see what happens. And I really suggest you don't do this unless you're prepared for trouble, because these spiders can react very fast. They don't like light and they don't like playing during the day, so that might be against me. I'll just try one more time. Maybe you can hear the tuning fork. Maybe you can see a spider that I can't see, but I'll be honest here, I can't see any spider running out to the tuning fork. And just one more time and I'll bring it over to this lower web here. There's lots of web through here. Can we get a spider to appear? No, I'll just strike it on the engine here, into the web. No, I'm not having any luck. Now these actually do work. I will throw to some footage of these working and luring out spiders around my home. But what I found was the Redback Spider, even the ones around our home, can be far more difficult to lure out. It seems to work better with certain styles of spiders. And the other peculiar thing, which I thought was very fancy, is that I've got an A and an E there. Now the spider can remember and not come out for a second strike if I give it an E, but if I then hit the A, which is a shorter one, the spider gets fooled again, and I can bring the spider out if I've got 2 tuning forks. If I've got one, I sort of only have one chance at fooling a spider. It's a pretty neat party trick to show people how to lure a spider. I will put my gloves on here and I'll come in and reset the car as it was before, well, they looked for that poor dead girl. If I'm really lucky, I'll see a spider. If I'm really unlucky, I'll find a Joe Blake, which is a snake. That's rhyming slang in Australia. A lot of people may get confused by that. Wow, I can see a lot of fresh spider web up here. Up there. Okay, tons of it. I'm sure there's stacks of redback spider activity going on here. I know where this was and I'll set it in its original spot. Okay, after moving it around a fair bit, I've got that where it belongs. I've got the roof of the car back to where it should be. The back area of the car, like the back toe ball, was also right down the front, so that's why I think it was more of a police operation, for the fact it was so thorough and they pulled all of this apart. I will just grab this bumper bar next, because I know exactly where that was laying. Like I keep saying, you've got to be very careful and always wear gloves when you're moving stuff. Okay, and that was sort of laying in there. It feels really weird resetting all of this up, and I'm always worried someone's going to come down and say, "What are you doing down here about car wreck?" And if I try to explain to them what I was doing, they just think I'm a nutcase. I believe this part here, oh, somewhere here maybe, because that's the top of the McPherson strut, which is there. Just noticing some ants getting aroused, so I don't want to be a victim of those. I remember looking at the doors and stuff, so that's the last thing I'll move back. Pieces like this, always looking under before I pick up. I don't know, maybe just layer it in here. There's like a suspension arm here. I'll maybe put this back in here somewhere, like so. It looks like the part which would be behind the bumper bar, okay, because the engine would be behind that. I think that's the front of the car. That would be laying in here somewhere. And these here are, yeah, that could be the part which is like, I don't know, over there. Being very artistic where I throw it. I believe this one here is part of the door area. It's one of the main uprights in the car, I hope. Perfect sort of spider nest. Maybe put it in here. And this piece here is basically the inside frame of a car door. And I'm certain that this was up the front of this car wreck area. I hope I'm correct in saying that, somewhere there. I'm just looking at this piece here. There's plenty of web. I don't know whether there's any spiders there. Maybe that black thing right in the middle of the screen is a spider. Keeping very still because it's probably petrified that I'm looking at it. Yeah, certainly tons of spider activity going on. And this is the last little odd bod piece. We could be very artistic and put it somewhere up there. Yeah. So okay, I have done my best to bring this back to how I sort of remember it. I'm certainly sure that a front bumper bar was in there. I know that wheel was there in that realm. I know the car door frame was there, and I certainly know the bonnet or hood, depending on what part of the world you live in, was there. And if I stand back here, maybe you can approve or disapprove of my rearrangement here. I may not have it totally correct, but there was also something else that I noticed that gives away for the fact that I believe this was more police searching this area than anything else. And that is because I can see that the bush at the back there has been well trampled, so whoever came up here was very thorough to basically pull this wreck apart, see what was going on underneath the roof there, and make sure there wasn't any dead bodies, especially underneath that part there. I'm absolutely sure that in a very short time there's going to be lots and lots of redback spiders here. That is, if other things that eat redback spiders don't take them out. And I could almost be guaranteed that if I came back here in a couple of months' time and I lifted this piece up here, that is if vandals don't come and wreck it for me, I could turn it over and find Mrs. Redback living in there. Maybe we'll do that, hey? As soon as I say that, and because people know where the car wreck is, it's probably never going to happen. I may have said earlier in this video, which is sort of made up in 3 lumps, that I would come down here at night and check out the redback spiders. Well, that idea has been diminished now because, well, I know, sadly, this is a sort of zone where people dump dead bodies, and I don't want to be down here at night when that sort of stuff is going down. Actually, before I go, I'll just wonder what is here. I think this is the exhaust manifold, and if I dig this out, I wonder what's going to come out. I wonder what made that. Is it wasp or ant? Because we did see the spider wasp here working its magic in the very early times when I was coming down here. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's... I don't know, maybe the audience knows, but to me, that's ant. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Yeah, don't know. Okay, for the final time in this video, we hope, I will leave the car wreck and I'll head back up the track before I get, well, taken out by whoever does the murdering around here, because I really don't want to find out who that person is. Just seeing the last of the sun at the top of the valley here, and that sinking sun is definitely a signal to retreat. And there's actually something up here I've always walked by when I go down to the car wreck, and it is over the side here. And I always looked at this and I thought, oh, that would be a redback spider home, but it could also be snake territory. It's an old fridge, I believe. It's metal. Okay, there it is there. Maybe it's best just to leave it as it is. And I think in bygone times, 20 years back, this is a bit of a dumping zone, illegal dumping zone for the local area. And I believe that car wreck was, well, basically probably a vandalized, stolen car and dumped in the bush and set on fire. That was a very, very common thing that used to go on back in the 70s and 80s. Lots of car wrecks from that era down in the bush. I know my audience often see things in the videos I don't see, but as I edited this video together, it was a pain in the neck to put together, a bit of a complex one. I do believe I can see a dead female redback spider in the car engine. Now I'll pause the video here and I'll also crop in closer so we can take a look. It's a black mass, it's got legs like a redback spider, and it's certainly in the right zone because the females will die at the bottom of their nest. That would have been a nest area because we saw the egg sacs in that zone as well. A female redback spider will live for approximately 3 years. Who knows, it may be Mrs. John Cena, it may be another large female redback spider, but I'm sure my eagle-eyed audience will either agree or disagree with what I'm saying and seeing here. And finally, if you are thinking of going and visiting the car wreck to see Mrs. John Cena's family, my advice is very simple. Be very, very careful because that part of town has snakes, spiders, and other nasty things that like to hang out in the Australian bush.